on camera today. Not because I'm out here bogus, but I just don't feel like coming on camera today. It's not about me, right? So, this is our like I was saying before, no one could hear me. Um, when Holy Spirit say, "Hey, I need you to get up and do this," I'm gonna get up and do that. This, that, and the other. And so today is Wednesday. We're here November 1st. November 1st. And I wanted to get on here about parenting. There was a video that I saw. It's been going around for quite some time now. And I guess it was some type of summit. I don't know what type of summit it was, but it was some type of summit that was going on. And this little girl, well, I don't want to say little girl, she was a teenager. So little, young lady. She was talking about like respect. Um, but and how like the relationship that she has with her mother, and her ability to be able to express herself, express how she's feeling, express what she's thinking to her mother, whether her mother likes it or not, right? And her mother let her know, like, hey, we have this relationship. However, you may come across other adults who see this as who would see you expressing your thoughts and your feelings as being disrespectful. And so, they had that dialogue, and which really allowed this young lady to again express herself, articulate what she feels, her thoughts, concepts, opinions, whether they're fact or not. And yes, there are adults who, when a child is expressing how they think, how they feel about something, it's and especially when it comes to them as an adult, they would see that as being disrespectful. And I know, I know that. Like I know, I am not a teenager. I am not a child, but I remember being one. Okay, and when adults were not behaving as adults, and you do that, then it's like staying in child's place and who you are and you being disrespectful and all of this. And it's like, no, quite the contrary. You are actually out of line. And it's just unfortunate that me, as someone who is younger, that needs to be, I should be looking up to you for wisdom and knowledge. However, like now I can put the words to it and say it's emotional immaturity in the adults, right? But back then I did not have those words, right? The emotional immaturity. But I knew that the adult was out of order. And I was definitely raised. Now you got to think, like, I was raised, I'm born in Chicago. I spent my formative years going back and forth from Chicago, Mississippi, Chicago, Mississippi. It's nothing, like out of the ordinary or whatever, because a lot of people made that trek, yeah, from the South up north. Um, and so that's not like a whoa, that type of thing. But um I spent my formative years living down south, right? In Jackson, Mississippi, raised by my grandparents. Okay. So there were just things that you were not going to do as a child. And, and it wasn't that you stay in a child's place, you should be seen and not heard. Like it was nothing, none of that. But we were definitely, taught to respect our elders. And that's what we did. But then we also saw, our elders were respectable. right? Our elders were respectable and we respected them. Okay. Um, and then, to come here where I currently live now and stay and seeing a lot of adults who were not, I don't want to say they weren't respectable, because regardless of if they're respecting themselves and their positions of authority or not, um you still give respect regardless of what they doing, right? um However, if another adult is not going to, let's say, check that other adult that is in a position, or maybe that does happen, maybe it has happened or whatever, and just that person is not, they're not listening, they're um abusing their authority, abusing their position, or whatever, and they happen to come across a child, and that's a space that I find, especially in these times, and as an adult, I see that, right? I see it with my peers who are adults. Okay. And they're adults, they're in positions of authority, whether they are whether they're husbands or wives, whether they are parents, a father or mother, whether they have a certain a position in authority in their profession. You see what I'm saying? And there is a lot of that going on, and they are not respecting themselves, respecting their positions, respecting their positions of authority. And regardless if you want to say, yeah, hey, I'm not a role model or this is that and the other, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think, believe, or attempting to or not attempting to be a role model or whatever. Children see adults, and inherently, because it's something that Yahweh put in us, right, as children, to look up to the adults as people that are in authority and respect them, right? So it doesn't matter if that person wants to be a so-called role model or not. Children are looking up to them, looking at them, and patterning themselves after said adults. That's just what it is, right? And so looking at that video, and it's not the first time I saw it. It's not the first time that I saw that video. It was one of I don't know how many times I've seen it, but it came across my news feed again, and I commented on it, and I'm trying to go back and see, because I know somebody, a young lady mentioned me in it because of my comment. And so that is what inspired this coming on live today. And of course, right now, like you see, what's in front of you, like the Bibles that's here, the Holy Name Bible. It's actually one of my slides that I use in when I do the Bible study, a metaphysical journey, study of the soul on Saturdays, right? So on Saturday mornings at I believe it's 9 Eastern, 8 Central, I go live and do a Bible study. So this is just one of the slides, because I am going to reference some scriptures, because that's what this is all about. It says parenting according to the scriptures. And one of the things, as a matter of fact, let me do something real quick. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back here. Okay, so throughout this, of course, I'm going to be using the true, correct, and original, names and titles of who the world knows as Lord God and Jesus, right? Jesus Christ is Yahweh, Elohim, Yahshua. Yahweh erroneously um substituted by Lord, Elohim erroneously substituted by God, Yahshua erroneously substituted by Jesus Christ, right? So I always like to clear that, so that those who come on here, when you hear me say these names, it's not that the world doesn't know these names, they do. It's just a matter of some people. I mean, when you've been doing or saying something for a long time, it takes a while for you to break out of certain habits, especially when you've been taught that over and over and over again. So um I mean, I started learning the truth of all of these things when I was like 16 years old. Okay, so that was 32 years ago. So I this is habitual for me now, right? Because it's been some 30 plus years. Okay. But I just want to share that, like, off the top. So what is this about? This is um parenting according to the scriptures, because that was my comment. I'm trying to see if I can find it, because the lady, the young lady mentioned me in it, and let me see if this is, no, this is not it. Um, oh, here it is. Here it is. This was the comment. So I commented on it, and because the gentleman in the video, he said that, hey, this thing about parenting, and we all make mistakes and make mistakes with parenting, because there's no parenting manual out here. We just kind of going willy-nilly with with parenting. And I'm gonna be honest, I cringe when I hear that. I cringe when I hear it. Why do I cringe when I hear it? Because there is a parenting manual. It is called the scriptures. It's called the scriptures. And it's unfortunate, and which is what I said in this comment. I'm going to read my comment. It's unfortunate because here we have the greatest manual that you could ever have. I mean, there's all kinds of parenting books that have been written. Parent this way, parent this way, parent that way, parent, and then you buy the parenting books. And then, especially for those who just don't want to do parenting willy nilly, and so they buy all the parenting books, or, it's like, well, if they felt like their parents did a good job parenting them, then, it's like, well, shoot, I don't need a parenting book. I'm gonna go to my parents. And I'm a parent. My children, how uh my parents parented me, and then they just continue on with that, right? um and some people don't like the way that they were parented, but they're not going to go and get a parenting book either. So then they just end up parenting their children the way their parents parented them, although they didn't like it. So then their children end up like not liking it either. And then now we're talking about, oh, we're going to break generational curses and all this stuff, right? And then some people, that's like, listen, um like, maybe they don't have their parents no more. Who knows? Maybe both of the parents died, or I don't know. And they're like, I don't know what to do. And so they go get a couple of books, right? Or maybe they don't like the way that they were parented, and they're like, listen, I know I do not like the way that I was parented, and I'm gonna get as many parenting books as possible because I'm gonna do this thing different. It's all a matter of choice and what people choose to do. But then, it's like, okay, well, I tried this when in this book, that didn't work. Okay, I tried this with this book, that didn't work. And now, okay, I tried this with this book. That didn't work because you're dealing with a child that came through you, and so they have your genes and where you came from, and the persons, that you mixed with, right? And their genes. And so you're trying to parent them according to this particular book that doesn't know you and your family's history and their other parents' family history, and you don't know the person that you had the child with parent history either, right? And so what better manual to get than the one from right, like Yahweh, right, that made all things. He's the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of the new heaven and new earth and all that exists. The Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov, or Jacob, who he called Yisrael, which means having power or having ability with Elohim, not without him. Like, you got to have them in order to be able to utilize the powers or abilities that are latent in you, because he's the one that put them there. Right? And so hold on one second. Let me come on, where's my thing? I'm trying to pull up my as a matter of fact, I'm trying to get to this other screen. Let me see if I do this. And there we go. Nope, I'm trying to get my mouse over here on this other screen and not this one, so that I could see the comments. But okay, so I apologize. I can't see the comments because I can't get my mouse over there on that other screen in order to pull them up. I apologize for that, because I would like to, engage, but feel free to use the comment section. So I mean, think about that. Think about it. And I like to be as practical as possible. Everything has a owner's manual. When you get something, look, I have a purse. Okay? A purse. When you get a good purse, I'm not talking about, you go to Wally World and grab your little bag, but like you get I don't want to say their names either, especially without being endorsed, like bring me some bread, but a designer handbag, right? You get you the designer handbag and stuff like that. I'm like, it got a little manual to it. Like, it's a purse, it's a bag. You put stuff in it. But it came with instructions. It came with an owner's manual. It's more so, look, it was actually a little card or manual, so to speak, of how to care for the bag. That's what it really was. Not how to use it, but how to care for it. Because they figured, well, how to use it. It has, you put your stuff in it, but this is how you care for it. And that's what it really is about. You're a parent, you have children, you need to know how to care for the children. Right? What better place to go to than the manufacturer of you and the children to care for their souls? Because that's what you're dealing with, right? We're dealing with souls. I'll always say this: soul, mind, and psyche are synonymous. It's one and the same. So when you're talking about the mind, having mindset or a different mindset or this mindset or that's mindset, you're talking about the way that the soul is set. Psychology, you're talking about the study of the psyche or the study of the soul. So you have to learn or study the soul that you just gave birth to in order to care for it. And in the Bible, that's all he dealing with is souls or minds. You want to train up. We talking about train, and I know everybody's heard that scripture of all of that one. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And we know that one, right? But train them up how? In what manner? In what way? Right? And so my comment was, when I heard the gentleman say, well, we don't have a manual to parenting, this is that and the other. And I said, the manual for parenting is the scriptures, but very few read it for themselves. Think about it. You got people out now. Listen, when I do something, I want to do it one time. I really do. I want to do it one time. And because I want to do it one time, I done put together many a bookshelves, desk, um, the kids at Christmas time, when we did do Christmas like that, their little toys and all of that type of stuff, right? Am I gonna keep that there? All right, I'm gonna put this up here real quick. And I know you're gonna be like, what is that for? Because it's a pattern, and we're gonna get through this right here. Okay. Um, but I want to I don't want to have to go back and redo it. So it came with instructions or a manual or whatever of how to put it together and or how to maintain it. If I have to build it, I'm going to read the manual, the instructions on how to put it together. I'm gonna set them pieces up in the places where I can get them. What tools do I need? Okay, you're gonna need this, you're gonna need this, you're gonna need that. Okay, let me grab all the everything that I need, lay these things out in an organized way and fashion to where I can get to it, do it, and then put that thing together. And boom, it's there, it's done. Now I know that there are a lot of people who don't do that, right? They, oh, I got it, I could do it, and don't read the manual. So then they're putting stuff in there together because they figure this is where this is and this is, and the thing is just all messed up. They didn't put it together right. And then they do one of two things. They have to take it apart and redo it, or they just leave it like it is. Like, I just want to, let's just say it's a bookshelf. I just want to put the books on it anyway. But it's all the shelf part, it's backwards. You can see, you know, it's like, come on now. So you just left it like that. I was just trying to get my use out of it. And that's how people do people. People like that do people that way. Um, okay. Everything is up to date. Wonderful. All right. I'm sorry. Something just popped up out of nowhere. And I'm like, all right. So, yeah. Now, we're talking about parenting. They do their children that way. Their use out of their children. I want now we'll be getting into something else that I'm not going to get into. Like I'm a certified coach, okay? That has had to study, the different personalities and all of these things to know what type of clients that I'm dealing with. But I won't get into the whole mental, health thing because I'm not a licensed clinical psychologist. But when it comes to certain personality disorders like, borderline and narcissism and stuff like that, I will give you this. Dr. Ramani. She is one of the number one leading experts in narcissism. Make sure you check out her channel. Dr. Ramani. All things narcissism. You pretty much that woman need to be giving out degrees as much, as much as she put out there on the topic, and it helps me with a lot. But I do know and understand it from a spiritual standpoint because I am a metaphysician and a certified coach. So that's how people will deal with their children. Like they see them as I don't. It's kind of like in narcissism. She talks about that. They don't see them as their own s- selves. They are extensions of them. And so they came, or they probably even had them because they wanted to have little servants, little minions, and little mini me's, as opposed to this person, this child that came here, they're their own being. Yahweh gave them the breath of life for a purpose here, and gave them everything that they needed and endowed with. And as parents, it's our jobs to nurture that. And so when we talking about train up a child in the way that he should go, so when he is old, he will not depart from it. We need to find out, okay, this being that I have that has been entrusted to me in my care, let me go to the manufacturer and see, how do you want me to raise the soul of this being that you gave me? So um so the young lady, she said that as a response to my, or reply to my comment, said, um please share, because that's what was quoted when I was getting spanked, but that's not what she's saying. Talking about what the girl was saying. And so my response to that was this: it's unfortunate that people in positions of authority misuse the scriptures, which is why many stay away from reading the book for themselves. However, if each person reads for themselves, they would see that parents are to follow Yahweh's example of parenting. He gives love, support, food, clothing, shelter, education, and discipline. People think discipline means spanking. Discipline means I'm training your habits now, right? Discipline. Think about the word discipline, disciple, you're a student, right? So, education, discipline. It's it's the study and the routine and the discipline of staying focused to master something, right? To master what you're learning. And as parents, we're training our children to master their emotions, master their habits. You know what I'm saying? When their hygiene and their daily routines of, so they have chores, right? And because they're in a household. So everybody needs to participate in the household, right? Um, Now I'm not talking about having a 2-year old go cut the grass, but you can teach a 2 or 3, 4-year old how to clean up after themselves. You play with the toys, you make a mess, fine. It's okay. But after you've made this mess and you played with your toys or whatever, now let me teach you or train you to clean up after yourself. And that give them a sense of, of importance, and they feel good about themselves. Hey, mommy, I cleaned up. It's like, yeah, you did. Good job. You know what I'm saying? You tell them good job. Okay, that they cleaned up after themselves, and that becomes routine. Now, after a while, you know, you're not still saying good job because now they're I don't know, 15, 16, so every time they clean up after themselves is good job. You say that where you're training them. Okay? After a while, it's just a habit. Like, I'm not looking for somebody to come to me and say good job every time I make up my bed. I'm 48 years old. I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, yay, good job. You made up your bed. I would even look at somebody like, like really, if my husband came in here and was like, good job, you made up the bed. I'll be like, what are you, you know, what it, um, are you okay? I would be asking him, is he okay? Because I'm not looking for somebody to give me standing ovation for making up my bed. I am past that age. You see what I'm saying? But I do know some adults who are well into their, like, chronologically, they're, up in that age, but possibly mentally and emotionally, they may be stuck at that adolescent type of age where if they clean up something, they want a standing ovation and a party. Now, I'm not talking about it. I'm just saying that if that is the case, there may be, like, seek help for that. I'm not making fun of it. I'm not but you see that is a telltale sign of, you know, of a person who is chronologically, um, a certain age, but then maybe mentally, emotionally, somewhere in there, they're stuck at that type of adolescent stage in development. Okay. All right. So to continue with this, he gives, and when I say he, I'm talking about Yahweh. So let's go. I'm gonna do this here. I'm gonna go back to, nope, not that slide. Here, right? Yahweh. He gives love, support, food, clothing, shelter, education, discipline, recreation, opportunity, and chastening to whom he loves. Now we need to know what chastening is and what that means. Okay. Um, and then I went so far as to, and in this, I'm going to read this so I can close it out. I said, there's a difference between abuse and chastening. I've seen frustrated and mentally unstable parents abuse their children under the guise of spanking, beating their children with extension cords, irons, punching 7-year-olds in the face, and etc. That's abuse. Getting a whooping because a child displayed behavior that could harm them and or other people, or land them in jail where they will be beat down with billy clubs by, get this, correction officers. Key word, correction. Okay. And in quotation, not quotation, in parentheses, because their parents didn't do it when they were children, and it was warranted. Okay. So I understand what she was talking about when she was saying, like, hey, when I was getting the spanking and they said through the scriptures, and I know it's in there. It's in Proverbs a couple of times when it said, and it used the word beat, beat, beat the child on the backside and do not spare for their crying. That's what it say in the scriptures. Okay. But we do know that people have taken it out of context, using that as a way to abuse. And that is not what the scriptures even mean and is talking about. right? Again, I remember as a child, like there were I would say, this is just me, I would say that the way that I was parented, okay, and I patterned my parenting after the way that my father and my grandmother and grandfather parented, and my maternal and paternal grandmothers, right? My father and my grandfather parented us, my siblings and I, okay? Um we didn't get a whooping every 5 minutes and for everything that we did. We didn't. It was like stages, or like certain things warranted certain things. So say for instance, if I didn't come in the house before the street lights came on, okay, then I got on punishment for that, right? I was supposed to be in by the time the street lights came on. I wasn't. Okay, you didn't get in here by the time those street lights came on. You can't go outside tomorrow. You got to stay in the house. You're on punishment. You can't go outside. And it's like, dang. You know what I'm saying? To correct my behavior. Like, you have to listen. If the rules are this, you have to abide by those rules. And I know in this limitless world that we like to live in, I don't want any limitations. I don't want any boundaries on me. And this is that and the other. Okay. So then now, when there's no limits and no boundaries, and people are doing anything and everything that they want to do, and now we see that that's lawlessness. It's like, oh my gosh, people are not respecting our boundaries, and this is that and the other. Well, you didn't want any. Like, that's how Yahweh will allow things to, oh, you don't want limits and bounds? Okay. Now you don't have them, and then you're drowning, and things crazy happening and going on. It's like, oh my gosh, now we want justice. That's the reason for laws. Laws are put in place to point out that boundaries were overstepped. But if you operated within these bounds and didn't cross them, you wouldn't need to seek justice. Right? And so it's like, that's what happened in the scriptures the whole time. Like everything. It was always the children of Israel. Yahweh started with, and we're gonna switch screens for a minute. Let me do a I'm gonna switch up for a minute. Switch up. We're gonna go here. Okay, I'm just making sure that we're still all right. Okay, now that's up. Okay. So before we get this, and remember, before we go into this, I'm going to finish this part up in conclusion to, the young lady's response on the comment, because she asked for me to share. So I did, right? Read, and you can jot this down. Read Exodus, the 20th chapter. Read the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs. Not just one, but the book of Proverbs. Now, 50,000 books out here. Everybody's getting, hey, I want to get the book, all of the financial books, all of the Forex trading books, all of the, and then, self-help books, all of the books. Everybody, and I got a nice little bookshelf too, right? All of the books, but will not crack open a compilation of books. The Bible is a compilation of, and I can't even say it's 66 books because some of these are actual letters, right? I mean, they're letters and they're not even a 5-minute read, right? So, but let's just say for the sake of saying books, 66 books in the Bible. The first 5 books of the Bible are the Torah or the law. The law. Okay, the first 5 books. And then you have the prophets, in which some of them um it's a little long, but if you put, like, say if you put tabs on the books or whatever, you see in between these tabs, it's like this not even a 120 page book. Even a 120 page book. This is like a pamphlet. I mean, when I really looked at it, I'm like, this is like a pamphlet. Even, okay, let's say the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah that has 66 chapters. When I look at the book of Isaiah, from Isaiah to Jeremiah, this is a pamphlet. I like to try to put it that way because in our heads, a lot of times we'll look at the Bible and it's like, oh, that's a big old book. It's not. It's not. And so if we've taken time to listen, there's resources, and I'm going to show it at the end of that, at the end of this live, resources. There's another channel on YouTube where for my people who, it's like, I don't have time to sit down and read anymore, but I will listen to a book. I'll listen. Guess what? His name is Christopher Glenn on YouTube. You're going to see the resources. He has a playlist. Not only does he have the books of the Bible, he has the Apocrypha. He has the books that are not even part of the canonized version of the Bible, that are books that are needed in order for you to understand it. Like the book of Jasher is the book of Genesis in detail. And the book of Jasher is mentioned in the scriptures 2 times. So that lets you know that, wait, the book of Jasher is mentioned in the book of Jasher in the scriptures, but it's not in here. That's a clue to find that book and read it. It's the book of Genesis in more detail. You get more history behind Abraham, which is who Yahweh made the covenant with. And he said that he would be the father of many nations, and how Yahweh dealt with him. Yahweh being the ultimate father, because that word father means spirit. It means origin, where we came from. Okay. So before we get Exodus, because this is what, I said as at least places to start. Read Exodus, the 20th chapter. Read the book of Proverbs. Read the letter to the Ephesians, okay, or the Jews or the Yehudas that were in Ephesus, because they were, they were exiled to many different places. When a certain city or country or whatever, where Yahweh just went on and destroyed it or whatever, war came, they had to get out of there, right? So they would get out of there and go to another place, and so they were scattered. But that's what Yahweh told Abraham. Yahweh told, first of all, in the book of Jasher, when Abraham was born, wise men, when you see wise men in the scriptures, they were astrologers, right? Everybody tells you, oh, don't follow astrologers, because, yeah, some of them like, right? But astrologers were those who were able to tell time by the heavens, because that's what Yahweh said. He said in Genesis, first chapter, verse 14 through 18 or 19, that he placed the sun and the moon and the stars in the heavens to keep days and times and seasons. That was the clock that he made to keep time and order. He's not bound by time because he made time, but we are. But he deals with us and has us to be prepared before the time, just like you would prepare to be somewhere before certain things start. You don't go at the time of, you get there before it starts, right? So he prepares us and speaks to us to tell us to be ready before this thing or this event in time happens. And he does that by what he placed in the heavens, being the sun and the moon and the planetary, the stars, the planets, right? And they're in their orbit. And certain things start to transpire on the earth. Right? So when Abraham was born, and you find the story in the book of Jasher. When Abraham was born, it was men that came to celebrate with his father on the birth of the son. So it's like a baby shower, right? Came to celebrate with the father. And so, people, baby showers is for women. Men ain't supposed to be there. Well, with Abraham, when he was born, men came and was celebrating with his father. It wasn't originally just for women. Men were there because men were the heads of their families. So they celebrated the fathers having the children. Hopefully we're getting back to that. Right? And so when those wise men who knew the times, because they could read the heavens and knew what time it was when they were leaving the house, they saw this star shoot across four corners of the earth. Now, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not saying that, but it made this configuration. In astrology, we call it a mystical rectangle. Right? It was either the mystical rectangle or it was there's a mystical rectangle and then there's a grand cross. Right? And it both of those configurations have four corners. Okay? So when they saw it, they said, "Oh boy. This child that was born this night is going to rule the world. We need to go tell the king because the king knew who they were. If we don't tell him the child about this child that was born this night, he gonna come and try to basically take us out. So let's go ahead and tell, because that's what they had to do. That was their job, right? Their job was to keep the king abreast of the times according to the planetary alignments in the heavens. So that's what they did. I don't want to get too far off of it, but I'm saying that to say, that the men were very involved with their children and their parenting responsibilities, and they were accountable for it as well, right? And so this letter to the Ephesians, where they were dispersed out, that was in fulfillment of Abraham's purpose and of what Yahweh told Abraham when he had his encounter with him. He said, "You will be the father of many nations. Your seed will be across the world." And even the astrologers knew that when he was born. Okay? That was his purpose for why he came. So now here his seed is in Ephesians, in Ephesus. And so that letter went out to the Ephesians. And what the issue was that Paul was addressing was family matters. How to be a husband, how to be a wife, how to be a father, how to be a mother, the children, the raising of the children, and how they are to raise their children. So the letter to the Ephesians and the letter to the Jews that were in and so the letter to the Colossians, or the Jews that were there in that place, same thing, right? It's like, let's get our, because Yahweh deals with it said the house of Israel. The house. Who in your house? Your household. It's like we want the world to be a certain thing. We want the world to do. We want the world to give. But what are we giving to the world in the production or the raising of our children? They won't be children forever. We're raising them because they will be adults. They will be adults if they choose to be fathers and mothers. Okay, they'll have children. If we're and the way Yahweh designed, okay, we're not talking about anything else. The way Yahweh designed it to be. If you got a problem with it, take it up with him, not me, because I ain't write it. I didn't design it. I'm just here learning myself to be on the right track. Because if you want something to work, we started out with the bookcase. If we want something to work properly, all right, if you want the best use out of it and you want it to work properly, you have to build it in the way that it was intended by the owner's manual. The owner's manual is the scriptures. In the scriptures, when you see the prophets, the prophets did not take credit and say, I said. The prophets always started out with writing, and the word of Yahweh came unto me saying. They made it clear who was speaking, and they were just a vessel that was being used to write down the words in order to do what? Pass it down from generation to generation, because that's what the wealthy does. If the people, if Yahweh's children are not wealthy, it's because they're not following how he have it already set up. And that was always how they were brought into captivity. Spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically, socially, materially, and financially. That's how they always were brought into captivity, because they went out of line, out of how Yahweh raised them and trained them to be and do and behave. Proverbs, when you start with that book, now here I use the Holy Name Bible, but the Holy Name Bible is not here in the Bible Gateway app. So, I'm going to get, well, they have the Geneva 1519, something like that, but Douay Rhymes 1899 version. We're going to start here, right? The parables of Solomon. We know who Solomon was. Solomon was, he was the son of David, right? Solomon was a king that Yahweh had to build the more permanent temple when they got over into Canaan's land, which was their inheritance, right? And Yahweh had him build the more permanent temple there. He was the one that asked for wisdom, which is one of Yahweh's 9 divine attributes. So when Yahweh says, seek ye the kingdom of Yahweh and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That's basically saying, get to know me and my identity. Get to know my behavior, my conduct, my actions. Get to know my character. Get to know my attributes. I have 9 of them, and they're divine. They're wisdom, intelligence, knowledge, love, beauty, justice, foundation, power, and strength. That is the characteristics of Yahweh. And everything is patterned after that. Everything that is a system, it operates in the numbers of 9. That's why 9 is the number of completion, not perfection. 7 is the number of perfection. 9 is the number of completion. Let's go through these numbers real quick and then we're going to keep on going. The number 6 is the number of man. And say that in the scriptures. Why is the number 6 the number of man? Because man has the 5 senses, which is what? Sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. The 6th sense is the psychic sense. All mankind has these 6 senses. You got your 5, which is in your body, and then the psychic sense. Psyche is the soul. Psychic sense, you fill out your soul and the souls or the minds of other people. And those who develop their psychic sense, then, we thinking people got all of these spiritual powers or whatever. And it's just that some people do not allow other people to drown out their mind or their psychic ability. Now you got some people that make money using it because other people don't tap into their own. Hey, just like, I'm not knocking nobody hustle. You know what I'm saying? I could do it too if I wanted to, but that's not what I want to do regularly. Right? In order to make income. But I don't knock it. I don't knock it whatsoever. Okay? But now, if you take those 6 senses and you submit it under the authority of spirit, which is Yahweh, now number 7, you're perfected. Because the 6 senses is under submission to spirit. 7. Now, with that number 7 and you being perfected, because you're being led and guided by the Spirit or the Holy Spirit, 7, perfection. Now you're regenerated, reborn, number 8. 8 is a life number. Regeneration and life, number 8, infinity. Okay? Now with that new life or that life, now you operate within a system. 9. Operate within the system or the body that we always talk about, right? The body of Christ, the body of the Messiah, that's operating within a system. Because you're not the only one, right? There are many. There are many who now it might not seem like it in the world that we live in, but really there are many who are operating and they're going forth in the service, okay, of Yahweh, or not necessarily like serving Yahweh, but being put in service of carrying out Yahweh's purpose to do what? Drive out the wickedness in this land, because this is not their place. They were kicked out here, but this is not their place, right? So it has to start in your mind to drive out that. We're talking about, he said he gave us the ability to cast out demons and speak with no tongue. Before, did you cast out the ones in you first? Then maybe you can see clearly to cast out the ones in others. Right? But it starts in-house. Because Yahweh is dealing with the house of Israel. Okay? So King Solomon was King David's son. And he was given, because David had blood on his hands. So Solomon asks, you okay? Now you king. And when he deals with you, it's not just a one-way thing. It's two-way. When you make a covenant to something with him, you get something out the deal too. Okay? You doing something, but you get benefits. So the parables of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, he said to know wisdom and instruction, because he asked Yahweh for his wisdom. He was like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm king and everything, but I need wisdom. I need wisdom to do this. Yahweh was like, wow, you know, wow. You just asked for one of my attributes. Yes. Yes. He said, because you didn't ask for the head, to kill somebody, or for riches, and I want $1 million and all of this, and you asked for wisdom, which is one of my attributes, like that's me. I'm going to give you that. And because if you have wisdom, then you know how to keep and maintain the riches and all of that type of stuff. Okay? And so this is Solomon talking about that. To know wisdom and instruction, to understand the words of prudence, and to receive the instruction of doctrine, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give stability, to give subtlety to little ones, to give subtlety to little ones, to the young man knowledge and understanding. There's not a parenting manual. I mean, just in the 4th verse of the first part of the book, to give subtlety to little ones. We're talking about children. To the young man, knowledge and understanding. We got to start there with the children. A wise man shall hear and shall be wiser, and he that understands shall possess governments. Governments. Joseph, because he walked with Yahweh and was instructed in everything, every step of the way by Yahweh, he was in jail, falsely accused, and came out because he had a gift of interpretation. He said, Yahweh is the one that interprets your dreams, but tell me your dreams. And it was his ability to not only interpret dreams, because we leave it at that, but interpret the dream, but then also have a plan for what the dream meant. He said, well, this is what the dream meant. The seven fat cow in the beginning, what means that, we're going to have 7 years of plenty. But then the 7 lean cows swallowing up the 7 fat cow mean that after the 7 years of plenty, it's going to be famine. Then the king didn't know what to do. He's the ruler. He's the leader. Well, what do I do? What do we do? Now Joseph has a plan. Why? Because he had a skill set. He had a skill set because, first of all, Yahweh was with him, telling him what to do the whole time while he was doing it. But he was he was good. He was a manager. He was good in managing the household, king's household. He was put over all his affairs and everything. And the king's wife wanted Joseph so bad. She was throwing it at him, Jack. And he was like, nope, no. I will be sinning against Yahweh and this man that got me, the king, which is your husband, no bet. He got put in jail because she falsely accused him after she was coming up after him all that time. And, he in jail and everything. So he interpreted some people's dreams that was in there. And then when one of them got out. And then that man remembered him and he mentioned Joseph's name. And so when that happened, he like, well, okay, since you the man with the plan, basically, I'm gonna set you up. I'm gonna let you handle that. He was set up as governor and saved the whole country because he had a plan. Right? So a wise man shall hear and be wiser, and understand and shall possess governments because he can govern himself. Well, how do you get to the part where you can govern yourself in order to be able to possess governments? How you were trained when you were younger. Started right there. To give subtlety to little ones, and to young man, and to the young man knowledge and understanding. He shall understand the parable and the interpretation to the words of the wise and the mysterious sayings. Joseph had the ability to interpret, understand it, understand what it means. Yahweh said, if there be a prophet among you, I will speak to him in a dream and in a vision. That's what Yahweh said. Right? The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. People, oh, you shouldn't instill fear. You're not instilling fear in a sense of abuse. But let's come on now. Like, let's say it. Listen, I'm a whole adult, children, married, everything. My mother is no longer here, and my father is no longer here, and my grandparents are no longer here either. But baby, I did fear them. I feared. What did I fear? I feared that if I did something that I had no business doing, that I was going to get in trouble by them. That's fear. And that's a good fear. You got this world that is psyching you out of your right mind. Psyching you out of your right mind, of correction and chastisement. Because guess what? They want your children in places where they can use them for free labor again, and then they get in there and beat them to death. But not out of love. Not out of love. Now the scriptures that say it does, and it uses that word, beat. Right? But I'm gonna go into it, and I'm just sharing, like, that process of how when we were coming up. Right? So the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. All these kids these days, they don't want to learn. They don't want to listen. They don't want to. Some of them are a reflection of their rebellious parents. Their parents are rebelling against Yahweh. Their parents are in spiritual rebellion. And the reflection of that is in their children that's rebelling against them. And what the children are really saying, like that girl was saying, was that, like, the young lady was saying, and she said it. She was like, we looking up to you all as adults, and we're looking up to you all for for the wisdom and everything, and then y'all out of order. But because y'all adults, y'all don't want to hear it. But who's gonna tell you? Especially if you're not telling each other. But then when a child said, and we could say it as children, as this is what she's saying. I'm not a child, but she was saying we can say it as children, as respectful as we possibly can, but you're still going to take it as disrespect just because I'm a child saying that you're out of order, and you know that you're out of order, but because I am a child, now you're going to tell me to stay in a child's place. But you're not in an adult place. So me as an adult right now today, now this is me talking, because I'm an adult. A lot of you adults are out of order. I'm going to say it, and I can say it. And I'm saying it according to the scriptures. You're out of order spiritually. You're spiritually out of order. You're spiritually rebellious, and it's reflecting in your children's behavior. That's what's happening. That's what we're seeing out here with these children. And they are angry. And I'm going to show that in the scriptures. Right? So the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Okay? 8. I'm not going to read all of this, but listen. My son. He talking to the sons. My son. Hear the instruction of your father and forsake not the law of your mother. This is not, oh, I'm going to listen to my father, but I'm going to treat my mother any old kind of way. Or I'm not going to act up with my father, but I'm going to disrespect my mother. I know adults who were raised like that. They're not going to cross their father, but their mama. And today they are adults that treat women any old kind of way. And then they come across the woman that's going to put them in their place. It's like, oh no, you're not going to do that. Now all of a sudden that woman is all kinds of everything out of her name. This woman hard-headed. She strong-minded. She not submitting. You out of order. And I'm not just saying that for men, but I know I've seen that. Right? That's just me giving an example. I've seen that. But we talking about two parents here. My son, hear the instruction of your father and forsake not the law of your mother. So your mother got laws. Your mother has rules. Don't forsake them. Now, why is that? Because we got a colon here. It's going to give why. That grace may be added to your head and a chain of gold to your neck. My son, if sinners shall entice you, consent not to them. If they shall say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood, and let us hide snares for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow him up alive like hell, and whole as one that goes down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoils. Basically, you got friends that's out here, they robbing, stealing, conniving, all of that type of stuff. And so this is basically going into a hole, and let us cast lots with one purse. He said, my son, don't walk with them. Restrain your foot from their paths, because their feet runs to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. And you'll go down with them. Right? You'll go down with them. So, like, read that whole book. Now, speaking of sons, here's my son calling me. What's up? You can hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. All right, cool. No, I just want to call you on my new phone. I look clearer? Yeah, you do. What kind of phone is it? The 15. Oh, man. That's pretty cool. Oh, man. I had to because my 12 was broke. Mm-hmm. Like my back camera on my 12 was broke, and then my back camera was broke, and then like when I call people, I can only speak on speakerphone. So like I might well give me a new phone. Yeah, that sounds like what's going on with your brother's phone right now. That I'm still paying on. Right, I still owe them $150 on my old phone, but I had switched over to T-Mobile anyway. Oh, okay. But I was just calling you to see what you had going on and talk to you like in a week or two. Okay, what you doing right now? On the way to go get a line. You busy? Oh, okay. I'm gonna call you. I'm finna end my live. I'm gonna call you right back. Look, thank God I ain't hop on here saying nothing crazy. I know, right? You gotta let me know when you're on live, man. All right. I'm gonna call you right back. Right. Okay, bye. Oh, look, that's my son. he Talk about y'all gotta let me know we going live. So crazy. He ain't gonna say nothing crazy. but but yeah, yeah, like so read the book of Proverbs. Read it to your children. Read it with your children, not just to, but with. Okay? The book of Proverbs. Now, let's go to because what did I tell the young lady? Ephesians, because there's something particular. And we're not gonna get into the whole book of Ephesians because I know it's it's lunchtime. People are about to go back to lunch and all that good stuff. All right. But and especially today, oh my gosh, baby, these people out here with the podcast and the 50-50, and the man's supposed to do this and the woman's supposed to do that, and you're supposed to do, and I mean just all of these things, and not even, man, listen, I don't know. I don't I don't know. I do know. This is what I do know. Okay. And I don't have no problem with saying what my age is. I'm not that person. Oh, you don't tell your age because, listen, I'm 48 years old. I'm 48 and a half, maybe 48 and 7 months, something like that. Okay. Um, However, with my experience in life, I did become a mother very early. But before that, I was given adult responsibilities even earlier. All right. Um, Thank goodness I was raised by I had a community of my grandparents, and then of course my grandparents people, and when it said take a village to raise a child, yes, yes, there was definitely um the village that was at hand. And I will say that environment is everything. It really is, because I went from one environment into another environment, and that next environment was not a good one. And you know, I just I got lost in that environment. I I succumbed to the environment that I was in. Um oh, I'm missing the H. I'm like, wait a minute. What's I'm like, what's going on here? Um However, I still had some good sense, thank goodness. And you know, I knew I knew what I was dealing with. And it's like, okay, I need to do some things different. Right? Let me go back to what look, get back into my right mind, or the righteous mind. Like, I don't know if you what's that? It was a movie with Denzel Washington, where the great debaters, I think that's what it's called. And he was saying something about, you know, like your righteous mind. It's that. It's like, yes. He said, because apparently you lost it. Yep. Apparently it's plenty people out here that done lost a righteous mind, and we need to get back to it quickly. And you looking for it out there when it needs to start in house. And the rulers, a ruler does not mean a dictator. A ruler is something that you use to measure. You are the measure, parents, parents, and your children measure up by your measure. Or simply put, you are the example. They do what you do, not necessarily what you say. If what you say lines up with what you do, they'll do what you say because they're watching you do what you say. But if it's not matching up, they call that being a hypocrite. Hypocrisy, like the Bible says, right? Like the scripture says. So, um, in Ephesians chapter 6, chapter 6, that's okay. Did it come up? I'm going to read it from the Holy Name Bible, although it's right here on, Douay Rhymes. Children, obey your parents, for this is right before Yahweh. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, that you may live long on the earth. And fathers. Now, everybody, we talking about there's an order here, right? Now, let me stop there before, because and this just happened to me not too long. Well, it was last year. Because we're talking about how people will take scripture out of context and use it how they want to use it. But we got to get the whole thing here, right? Honor your father and your mother that your days might be long. Father and mother acting all crazy. Father and mother using you, abusing you. I mean, just like all kinds of like whatever. Father, I mean, not being a father, not being a mother, not providing for the needs, like just not being a parent. But honor your father and your mother that your days might be long. Now, that is not to say, because this is how I deal with my children, right? Like I teach my children, listen, because I'm their parent, okay? I'm one of their parents. All right. I'm like how I raised them. I don't care who is doing what. You know how you're raised. You respect yourself at all times, and you respect others even if they don't respect themselves. Respect has to do with authority and position. Honestly, you have people not respecting their own position and authority, but want everybody else to respect it. Regardless of that, you respect you at all times. And if you have to move around, that's what you have to do in order to not disrespect. Because what you do is a reflection on you. And I know it is very challenging to do that when you got people just acting all kinds of crazy. But you have to respect enough to move around if it's just, But here it says honor. It says honor. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you and that you may be long lived upon the earth. Because that's the commandment. That's what Yahweh said in the commandment. Exodus chapter 30. Not 30, 20. Make sure you read it. Talking about parenting. Make sure you read it. Because that's the father. He's the ultimate father. Okay? And when you honor your father and your mother, you honor your father and mother by your behavior, conduct, and actions. That's how you honor them. Right? David, which was Solomon's father, right? Terah was perfect. The perfect example is Abraham and Terah. Terah was disrespectful and dishonorable to Yahweh. Why? Because he was an idolater. He was an idol worshiper. He revered and respected the king more than Yahweh, the people more than Yahweh. He made idols, he sold them. That did the king good because look, the king want taxes. He's the more idols he sold, the more money he regenerated revenue, the more money he was able to give the king. So the king didn't have no problem with him doing that. And Abraham, because he was taught by his grandfather Noah, he went to his father, Terah. Now, this would seem to be disrespectful. He's father. Um, that's these idols that you're making and you selling to the people. eh, those are dumb idols. The people praying to them, you praying to them, and this is that and the other. I mean, you shouldn't you not be doing that? Ah, son, I know, but you know, I mean, the king like it because I'm able to get him money. The people, and then I mean, I'm selling them the product, so I got to do it too because if I'm not doing it, I got to be a product of the product. And Abram went against his father in that. So would he be disrespecting his father? Yahweh made the covenant with Abraham because he did not dishonor him, the ultimate father. And that is why he made that covenant. He said, get out of your father's house. So you see how, look, when the children cannot, because the parent is not, they got to move around. They have to go. That's what Yahweh told Abraham to do. Get out of your father's house. Get away from your kindred. Get out this country. They're all steeped in idolatry, which is against me. Go into this other environment, and I'm going to bless you over there. So sometimes you're honoring your father and your mother that may be in spiritual rebellion against the creator himself, and you honor them by moving out the way because that's what Yahweh told Abraham to do. Parenting according to the scriptures. And you fathers, provoke not your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and correction of Yahweh. I mean, yeah, that's 4 verses right there. Children, obey your parents and Yahweh, for it is just. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with promise. It didn't say honor your father, treat your mother any old kind of way. Honor your father, but don't listen to your mother. Honor your father, respect him, but frown up at your mama because she asks you to pick up your shoe. You got an attitude. It don't say that. It say honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you and that you may live long upon the earth. And you fathers, provoke not your children to anger. How does a father provoke his child to anger? Maybe because he's not there. Maybe because he's not providing the things that he needs to provide as a father. Maybe because he is there and doing all things that are not fatherly. I mean, it's a whole host of stuff. Again, check out Dr. Romney all things narcissism. She gets real deep into the parenting and all of that. And there's a lot of people that's talking about how they were raised by narcissistic parents, narcissistic fathers, narcissistic mothers even. I'm not picking on one person or everybody who is out of order, right? You can provoke your children to anger. And now they angry. And now they at school angry. And they everywhere else angry. And then they so angry that they drink themselves to death, sex themselves to death, end up in jail, selling drugs. They weren't brought up in the discipline and the correction of Yahweh. Colossians. Uh which chapter? Uh Colossians. Read the whole chapter. The whole chapter. But we're going to pick up, and then I'm done because I got to call my son back, because he did say that. He was like, I was just calling you to and talk to you in a week. And of course, he was testing out his new phone on the way to get a line and stuff. Okay. So, yes, read the entire chapter, but we're going to drop down to, because this is what, look, people who don't even think to crack open the Bible want to use this, but they do. But hey, it said, wives, be subject to your husbands as it behooves. I'm gonna read it from the. It said, as it behooveth in the Lord. But I'm gonna read it from the Holy Name Bible. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, not somebody else's, your own, as it is fit in the Messiah. Now, I could do something just on that whole thing alone, because, okay, as it is fit in the Messiah. Now, you submit yourselves unto your own husbands as it is fit in the Messiah. You got to know who the Messiah is, what the Messiah did. The Messiah did not use and abuse and manipulate the bride or the assembly. He served it. He walked with them. He taught them. He fed them. He was with them the whole time. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That is what it means, as it is fit in the Messiah. Because everybody ain't a husband and everybody is not your husband. Right? Husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them. Joshua was not bitter against the assembly or his bride. He loved them. He loved them so much to where he sacrificed himself. He sacrificed so that he could be with them always. That is what it meant by, I go, but I send a comforter that will be with you and shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever I have said unto you. That's what he did. So, husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them. Bitterness is an emotion that, if it's held too long in the body, eventually it starts to, you got liver and gallbladder issues. Mm. Children, obey your parents in all things, for it is well pleasing unto Yahweh. Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged. Do you see that? Wives, submit to your own husbands. That's the wife. Husbands, love your wives, be not bitter against them. Children, obey your parents in all things, for it is well pleasing unto Yahweh. Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged. Or here it says indignation, lest they be discouraged. Funny thing, husbands, well, I don't know nowadays, but according to what the scriptures are talking about, husbands, that's a man. Fathers, that's a man. It's two times where men is given something and the child one, the wife one. Husbands, fathers, you got a responsibility and an accountability and a duty because you subject or submit yourself unto Yahweh so that Yahweh can lead you and guide you in your heart and mind and how to cover, rule as in be the measure to where your family, wife and children measure up to a righteous or godly standard. And so those the things that I just laid out here and those scriptures, that's not the end all be all of parenting, but it's a start, right? Of parenting and family. It's a start. But you want to get to know when it says seek ye first the kingdom of Yahweh and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. You got to seek him and get to know him and what his standard is and his measure. And basically just say, can you lead me and guide me? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing as a parent. I don't know what to do. Um, I know what my mama did. I know what my daddy did. I know what, and whatever that is. Um, and like, yes, we want to, we do not want these old ways of like slavery bondage parenting, of be seen not heard. I mean, because we have to understand that's the time that they came from. I mean, what was that? uh not too long. I mean, what, we go back to a great a great grandparent or something like that, that was probably a slave or sharecropping and everything. And so we're getting rid of these slave massa mentalities when it comes to parenting, when it comes to even being husbands and wives. You know, a lot of husbands was treating their wives like master treated him, like a slave driver, treating their children that way, you know? And so bringing those things down, and this is not that is not of Yahweh. That is not the psychology of Yahweh. It's about freedom. It's psychological freedom. It's the freedom of the soul. And everyone, even children, has the right to be able to express themselves and their thoughts and their feelings in an honorable manner. You know, my children know how to come to me and express some things that they don't like, even if it's about me. And they can do that. They have done it. It's like, let's sit down and talk about this, you know, and they say it. Okay. Now, let's let's do this. Let's talk about it. Um, if it's something that I can see, like, yeah, I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with a I'm sorry. I was out of line and I should not have done that this way. I could have done that differently. As a parent, then I'd share that part. And it's like, well, this is the part that you don't understand. And this is why, this is that and the other. And you'll get to understand that more when you become a parent, right? It's not a justification, but it's some things that children do not like that it's just, yeah, you're not gonna like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna like this part, because but I understand where you are in your stages of development as a child going into your, I mean, your teenage years and then your young adult years and things like that. And it's some things that are that are unlocked in the mind, again, the stages of development that you know you're not going to get until certain ages. Like, hopefully without any kind of crazy obstructions, your brain develops fully, that frontal cortex, by 25. That emotional brain, or part of the brain, the amygdala, right? Where you can have more control over your emotions and check them and all of that. Again, barring the you don't have any obstructions that's there. Not stuffing it to the side, but the ability to express emotions in a healthy way, emotional maturity, in which unfortunately, we do have a lot of, there's a difference between being responsible and being accountable. I see a lot of adults that can handle responsibility, the ability to respond, but accounting, that's like perfect example. Can you account for your money and where it's going? Yeah, that part, right? Accounting. Can you account for your behavior and what it's doing? Can you account for your behavior and how that behavior affects you and everybody around you? There's a lot of adults struggling with that. They need accountability partner. Exactly. That is the reason why Yahweh ordained marriage. Husbands and wives are accountability partners. They're supposed to be accountability partners. Yeah. And children come because he said, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So you got children, and then you have your ability to grow things, all of that stuff. And the children are watching. So if we're going to get to the design of family, and if there are any absolutes, Yahweh is the best source to go back to. He's the ultimate source, substance, limits, and bounds of everything. Nothing escapes it. And if you get outside of it, you just got pure chaos. And if that's what you see, If that's what you see with your children, if that's what you see around you, if that's what you see in your household, get back to the designer. Ask them, but don't just ask him because well, I'm gonna say this. You're gonna ask him. If you don't hear nothing, this the reason why. Because he's gonna say, he's basically saying or thinking, it's a whole Bible right there. You probably want to read it. If you've read every other book out here, that's probably one you want to pick up and read it. I just gave you like some of where you could start. You want to read the whole thing, but and with parenting and family, again, Exodus chapter 20, the entire book of Proverbs, the letter to the Ephesians, and the letter to the Colossians. Specifically, that was the Ephesians, the 6th chapter, and Colossians, was that the third chapter? Okay. Um, because Yahweh is not willing that any should perish. But he said if, because he already built in us free will. What is free will? Free will is really freedom of choice. What is freedom of choice? You have the freedom to choose between two things. Two. And that's it. You're either choosing him and his way. If you don't choose him and his way, you have nothing left but that other thing. And if you're already dealing with that other thing and you don't like it, you don't have another choice because you already chose the other one. It's not working. You don't like the results. So I say Yah's way, right? Yahweh, Yah's way. Even his name says it. It's like Yah's way. And in it, in the limits and bounds of it, there's freedom to live, move, and have your being for yourself and your children. That's all the children want, right? And they'll love you for it. And you'll love Yahweh for it. All right. So trust in that. So that's my time. I'm out. Let me call my son back. And we'll see you on Saturday. This coming Saturday, I'm doing a for the month of November, I'm doing a topic on cancer, trauma, and holistic healing in honor of my father and my mother, who they both passed away from cancer. It was different forms of cancer, but they both passed away of cancer. My father passed away in 2013 from it was called I think it's leiomyosarcoma. It was a very rare cancer of like in the tissues around his like gut area. He was a Sagittarius, so I equate that to like the solar plexus, and I'm like, I understand the emotional component of the type of cancer that he had. Um, yeah. And then my mother, 10 years later, which is 2023, which was this year in January, she passed away from um, colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer. And I understand what that type of cancer is also, emotionally, metaphysically, I should say. Um, and those things. And I had been like last Saturday after the live, I was thinking, I said, you know what? I said the 4th falls on, was my mother's birthday is November 4th. I said the 4th falls on a Saturday. I was like, I think I'm gonna do a health topic, in honor of my mom. And I just kind of briefly thought about that day and then went on about doing things or, whatever. And the other night, I woke up at 4:38 a.m. Central Standard Time from a dream. There was the first part of the dream, and I'm not going to mention that part of the dream. But at the end, towards the end of that dream, um, I was in a shoe store and my phone rang. And I looked down at my phone. I saw it was my mother. I said, "This is my mother." I said, "This is my mom calling me. Let me answer this phone and see what she want." Now, in the dream, I knew that she had passed away, right? But she was calling me. I said, "Let me." I said, "I gotta answer this. Let me see what she wants." And I said, "Hello," and my mother said it just like this. She said, "Can you put cucumbers in?" And I woke up immediately and started searching the benefits of cucumbers. And so I knew it was her because of what I found in that research. I'm like, yeah, that's my mom. And she telling me to eat cucumbers. And because I know like the things that I'm going through in my life, and I know my blood type and all of that. And because my father and my mother passed away of cancer. Cancer is not necessarily hereditary. It's more so of your blood type, your lifestyle, and the things that you're dealing with in your life, and who's more susceptible to cancers, just by way of lifestyle and habit. And I know that I am, and I don't I don't want it. Right. So I said yes. I'm definitely doing again cancer, trauma, and holistic healing according to the scriptures all the month of November. And I'm gonna go into like the health of, cancer, the why, and all of that, and the health benefits of certain things when it comes to cancer, and prevention, right? Like prevention, and then also self-care and healing if you are um if you or someone have cancer. Of course, there's different types of cancer. You have to treat them differently. But those things. So hopefully you can sharing is caring, share that with everyone that you know. My hope is that you'll be there. Again, Saturdays I go live at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Central. And, it's called Study of the Soul, A Metaphysical Journey. But this month of November, because my mother's birthday was November 4th, my father's birthday was November 28th. So, and my grandmother's birthday, which is she's still alive, my maternal grandmother, her birthday is November 25th. She will be 91. Yahweh willing, she'll be 91. And with everything that she's been through in her life, she's still here. you know, she wrote me a letter the other day and she was like, if somebody would have told me years ago that I would live to see 90, 91, I would have kicked them in the teeth. I was cracking up laughing. I'm like, she is still so funny. But yeah, she's still living. So by then, my November caregivers and things, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, like I said, she's still living. My father, November 28th, who, like I said, passed away of cancer in 2013, and my mother, November 4th, who passed away of cancer in January of 2023. We're definitely doing this topic: cancer, trauma, and holistic healing according to the scriptures. So, again, share, be there Saturday, and I'll see you then. So you all have a great, wonderful rest of your day. See you then. Peace.